Imagine a large galvanized metal tank just filled with water,
Okay.
and you drop a hungry northern pike into one side, which is, a notoriously aggressive predatory fish.
Right. They do not mess around.
Exactly. And then on the exact opposite side of this tank, you drop in a school of small minnows, its absolute favorite prey. But right down the middle, you've slid this completely clear, heavy glass partition.
Yeah, this is a classic behavioral setup. It was famously detailed by researchers like Steve Stockdale.
Right.
The pike sees the minnows, its predatory instincts instantly fire, it lunges forward to strike, and bam, it slams face first right into the glass.
And it shakes it off, right? It circles back, spots the prey again, strikes, and just hits the glass again, over and over and over.
Yeah, and the sheer physical and mental exhaustion of that is brutal.
It is, until eventually, after enough of this battering, the pike just stops trying entirely. It just retreats to its corner.
But the absolute kicker to this experiment is what happens next.
Right, because if you slide that clear glass partition entirely out of the tank,
The minnows will eventually swim right over to the other side. They will literally brush up against the gills of this hungry predator.
and the pike won't even snap its jaws.
No, it will lazily starve to death in the middle of an absolute feast.
It's just wild to think about.
Well, the fish didn't just learn that there was a temporary physical barrier in the water. It internalized a far more dangerous psychological lesson, which is that its own actions no longer possessed any causal effect on its reality.
Wow. Well, welcome to the deep dive, everyone. We are looking at that invisible glass partition today, but not in a fish tank.
No, definitely not.
We're looking at the one in our own brains and the one that's currently being shattered in Silicon Valley. Today's mission is to explore this massive fundamental shift happening in the tech world right now.
The leap artificial intelligence is making.
Exactly, the leap from simply holding knowledge to possessing actual autonomous agency. And we're going to use that exact lens to expose a pretty shocking truth about ourselves.
We have a really fascinating stack of sources to guide us today, too.
We do. We've got transcripts and insights from AI ethics leader Raman Chowdhury, deep analyses of AI learning logic and inference.
And, of course, that classic behavioral experiment on the pike.
Plus, Sugata Mitra's mind-bending, hole-in-the-wall self-teaching research. Our goal is to figure out how our 200-year-old factory education system has been secretly wiring the human brain.
And what actually happens when you finally realize the glass partition is gone? It's a profound comparison, honestly.
It really is.
I mean, we are actively watching machines gain the very traits that our own educational institutions have systematically suppressed in human beings for over 2 centuries.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting with the machines. Because if we are going to talk about human intelligence, we have to establish the baseline of what true intelligence actually means in the tech space right now.
Right.
If you look at the discussions from the Twitty network coverage and, recent industry analyses, for a long time, AI models were essentially just massive lookup tables.
Pure knowledge.
Yeah, pure knowledge. You asked a question, it fetched a static answer, like a highly advanced lightning-fast encyclopedia.
They possess knowledge without intent. But, as was recently highlighted at the NVIDIA keynote with Jensen Huang, we have firmly left that era behind.
We're in a new era now.
We are. We've entered the era of inference.
Okay, inference. Break that down for us.
So, inference is the process of updating beliefs from continuous evidence. The machine isn't just retrieving a static fact anymore.
Right.
It is looking at real-time, messy data, processing it through its learned patterns, and adjusting its output dynamically based on the context.
I keep seeing these headlines about scaling up parameters to make that inference better. But wait, for those of you listening who aren't, building neural networks on the weekends.
Which is most of us.
Right. When we say parameters, what does that actually look like under the hood?
Think of parameters as millions or even billions of tiny adjustable dials on a massive studio soundboard.
Okay, I can picture that.
During training, the AI turns these dials slightly up or down to figure out how different concepts relate to one another.
So more dials means?
The more parameters you have, the more nuanced the AI's understanding of context becomes. But tech leaders are realizing something crucial right now.
Which is?
Simply adding more dials, just making the model bigger, isn't enough to create true intelligence.
Which brings us to the real leap. The thing that has everyone buzzing is this explosion of what they call agentic AI.
Yes, agentic AI.
Gosh, X like OpenClaw. I mean, OpenClaw just became the fastest growing open source project in history.
It's unprecedented.
Up until incredibly recently, AI fundamentally lacked agency. It just sat there waiting for you to type a prompt.
Exactly. It was purely reactive.
But an agentic AI framework like OpenClaw changes the entire architecture. It gives the AI a continuous loop to think, observe, and act.
It can execute multi-step tasks now.
Yeah. It can read local files on your computer, make decisions about what to do next, and actually take action in the real world without you holding its hand.
And this raises a really important question. Why is that the defining line for intelligence?
Right.
Because true intelligence requires agency. Agency is the intentional desire to act upon knowledge based on values, goals, and beliefs.
Intentional desire.
Yes, absent of focus or purpose, your knowledge and your ability to infer simply lack a target for individual agency.
Ah, that makes sense.
If an AI knows everything but has no drive to act on any of it, it is just a very smart dictionary waiting on a shelf.
So if having knowledge is simply owning a map, and inference is your ability to read that map and understand the traffic updates as the road changes,
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
then agency is actually sitting behind the wheel, putting your foot on the gas, and driving the car to a destination you autonomously chose.
That captures the mechanism perfectly. Agency is the engine.
Wow.
And now that machines are being built to drive themselves, we are essentially forced to reevaluate the drivers we are producing in our own society.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because if the tech world is defining the absolute pinnacle of intelligence as agency, we have to turn that mirror back on ourselves.
We do.
Think about your own childhood for a second, to everyone listening. Think about your kids, if you have them. How do we define human intelligence?
And does our 12-year standard education system actually cultivate that same agency in us?
According to the research of AI ethics expert Raman Chowdhury, the answer is a hard no.
Right. In fact, it's designed to do the exact opposite.
Yeah, in her work, she traces the modern definition of intelligence, and she reveals that our concept of being smart isn't some fundamental biological scientific truth.
No, it is an economic and political construct born entirely out of the Industrial Revolution.
Because when you look back at history, the pre-industrial human was completely wired for distributed, self-directed life.
Absolutely.
If you worked in agriculture, or if you were a blacksmith or, a cottage weaver, agency was literally baked into your daily survival.
You had to wake up, make independent decisions, test hypotheses about the soil or the market, and adapt to the weather.
You were an autonomous agent. But then...
The steam engine arrives. The Industrial Revolution happens.
Right. And overnight, the global economy no longer needed independent, self-directed problem solvers.
It needed standardized, replaceable workers.
It required people who could accept strict hierarchy, follow standardized procedures without questioning them, and to show up at the exact same time every day to stand at a machine.
So governments and massive businesses essentially collaborated to create centralized factory education.
To literally rewire the human brain for this new era.
We see this clearly with figures like Alfred Binet.
The IQ test guy.
Exactly. Binet is famous for developing the precursors to the modern IQ test. But he wasn't trying to measure pure human potential.
Wait, really?
No, he was asked by the French government to design tests specifically to classify children.
Ah.
The tests were timed, rigid, and punished any deviation from the instructions.
So they were basically filtering kids.
Exactly. They were designed to figure out which children would make docile, compliant factory workers and which much smaller percentage would make organized managers.
Wow.
He was testing for compliance disguised as intelligence.
And the structure of the school day itself was modeled on the factory floor?
Oh, entirely.
The ringing bells signaling the start and end of shifts? The age-based batching of students moving down an assembly line of grades?
The specialized subjects separated into rigid blocks of time.
It was a physical and psychological conditioning program, and we were warned about this.
We were.
Thomas Jefferson explicitly fought against this centralization of education.
Right, during his push for Bill 79 in the late 1700s.
Yeah, he argued that a centralized, top-down schooling system would strip citizens of their self-reliance. He predicted it would create a population dependent on authority rather than fostering the independent self-governance a democracy requires.
And his warnings were completely ignored.
Completely ignored. But hold on, let me push back on this for a second, because framing it this way sounds incredibly dark.
I know it does.
Are you telling me the architects of the modern school system were sitting in a smoky room, rubbing their hands together, intentionally plotting to turn children into mindless drones? Because that sounds like a massive conspiracy theory.
It is deeply tempting to view it as a malicious conspiracy, but the reality is much more banal.
Okay, so not malice.
It wasn't malice. It was an unintended structural consequence of a system that was entirely fit for purpose 200 years ago.
They desperately needed factory workers to power the new economy, so they built a factory-style pipeline to produce them.
Exactly. The tragedy is not that they built it in the 1800s.
Right.
The tragedy is that 2 centuries later, in an era that demands self-directed creative knowledge work, we simply never updated the architecture.
We are running modern human minds on a purely industrial era operating system.
Exactly.
So if that industrial operating system is still running, we have to look at the hard facts of what it actually does to a human being. We spend 12 years, the most critical developmental period of a human brain's neuroplasticity, inside that factory model. Right.
Think about the daily mechanics of that environment. In a traditional classroom, someone else defines the problems for you.
Someone else defines the pacing.
Someone else defines what success looks like, usually a letter grade or a standardized test score.
And if you demonstrate autonomous thinking that diverges from the set curriculum, you aren't rewarded for creativity.
No, you are actively punished for being off task.
To understand why that is so neurologically damaging, we have to look at how agency actually develops in the brain.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Agency requires exercise. It relies on a continuous act feedback loop. You independently make a choice, you take an action, and you experience the direct feedback of that action in reality.
But factory education systematically severs that act feedback loop.
It does. It replaces it entirely with a compliance cycle.
You receive instructions, you reproduce those instructions, and you wait to be evaluated by an external authority.
Which brings us right back to our hungry fish.
The northern pike bumping its head against the glass.
The fish developed what psychologists term outcome independence. Outcome independent.
It learned through repeated environmental conditioning that its own contingent behavior had absolutely zero impact on its reality.
Wow. And the hard fact presented across our sources is that 12 straight years of factory schooling wires the human brain for this exact same phenomenon.
Oh, helplessness.
Learned helplessness. That is a heavy, heavy term.
It really is.
And the sources point out that this isn't just a quirky behavioral trait where, you're a bit passive in meeting.
What you experienced was a term called learned helplessness. How many have heard of the term before? Let me see your hands. Learned helplessness is often used in the academic literature to mean what? Jory?
Basically, they fail once or can't do something one time, and then they apply that to everything in the future, so all the future applications become skewed by that learned helplessness.
And here's the thing, and this is what I want everybody to understand. It's usually only used in the academic research.
No, it's much deeper.
This neurological habit of deferring judgment to authority, this deeply ingrained feeling of a complete lack of causal control over your own life, for many people, this is at the root of clinical depression.
It is a profound psychological burden.
We are presenting this as a hard fact for critical analysis here. Our schooling system is inadvertently mass-producing the psychological conditions for depression by stripping away autonomy.
What's fascinating here is that agency is an innate human capacity. We are actually born with it.
We are.
Think about it. If you watch any toddler, they are the ultimate scientific agents.
Oh, that's so true. They get into everything.
They actively explore their environment, they test boundaries, they drop objects to test gravity, and they self-regulate based on the feedback.
But then 12 years of schooling trains learners to substitute that internal choice for external control.
Over time, that innate burning agency becomes attenuated. It fades.
Your default behavioral tendency literally becomes wait for instructions.
You become the pike waiting for the glass to move, completely unaware that the partition isn't even there anymore.
Which is such a massive, blinding irony.
It really is.
We are pouring billions of dollars into teaching AI how to have agency, how to execute tasks, and make autonomous decisions with frameworks like OpenClaw,
while simultaneously running our own human children through a 12-year gauntlet that trains them out of the very same trait.
But, and here's the good news, there is an antidote. And this is the part of our deep dive that genuinely rewired how I think about learning.
Oh, definitely.
What actually happens when you completely remove the factory model from the equation?
You get the extraordinary paradigm-shifting research of Sugata Mitra.
I love this story. In 1999, Sugata Mitra conducts this beautifully simple, almost chaotic experiment.
That was brilliant.
He goes to a slum in New Delhi, He takes a computer with a high-speed internet connection, embeds it right into a brick wall about 3 feet off the ground so it's at eye level for a child, turns it on, and just walks away.
And keep in mind the context here.
Right.
These kids barely went to school, they did not speak a word of English, and they had never even seen the internet before.
There was no teacher, no instructions at all.
And within hours, without a single adult intervening, they had taught themselves how to browse the internet.
Hours.
The mechanism of how they did it is what matters. One child would accidentally click the mouse and see an arrow move. They would show a friend.
That friend would figure out how to click a link.
Exactly. The knowledge spread through the peer group like a positive virus. They figured it out entirely through peer collaboration and raw, unadulterated curiosity.
Mitra realized he had stumbled onto something massive.
He did. He recalled a conversation with the science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke, who told him, "A teacher that can be replaced by a machine should be. And if children have interest, then education happens."
So Mitra decides to push this theory to the absolute breaking point.
He really went for it.
He goes to a remote village in South India with a group of 12-year-old Tamil-speaking children. He leaves them a computer, but this time it's loaded with highly complex biotechnology material.
Stuff regarding DNA replication.
Yeah, graduate-level science, and it is all in English. He tells them, this is really difficult stuff. It's all in English. I'm leaving.
He gives them no baseline, no dictionary, no starting point whatsoever.
And he leaves them alone with it for 2 whole months.
When he returns, he asks them if they understood anything.
And initially, they say no.
But then, a 12-year-old girl raises her hand and says,
"Apart from the fact that improper replication of the DNA molecule causes genetic disease, we've understood nothing else."
I laugh every time I read that quote. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible.
These kids, entirely on their own, navigating a foreign language in graduate-level science, boosted their test scores from 0 to 30%.
But 30% still wasn't a passing grade.
Right. So Mitra introduces the final piece of the puzzle. He introduces what he calls the method of the grandmother.
He recruited a local accountant, a young woman who knew absolutely nothing about biotechnology.
Her instructions were strict, right?
Very strict. Do not attempt to teach them, do not lecture, simply stand behind them and encourage their curiosity.
She was told to act like an enthusiastic grandmother, saying things like, "That's cool, that's fantastic. I don't understand what's on the screen. Can you show me how you did that?"
She was just providing a psychologically safe environment and a positive feedback loop.
She was giving them dopamine for their urgency.
Precisely the mechanism. And with just 2 months of that non-instructive, purely supportive encouragement, their test scores jumped to 50%.
Which was the exact same score that the elite posh schools in New Delhi were getting, with highly trained, specialized biotechnology teachers.
This wild success eventually led to Mitra creating the Granny Cloud.
The Granny Cloud.
Yeah, he used Skype to beam British grandmothers into self-organized learning environments, or SOLEs, around the world.
And the grandmothers didn't teach. They just provided that encouraging, stabilizing presence while the children taught themselves.
You can't catch me. You say it. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. Well,
He even tried this in Turin, Italy. 10-year-old Italian kids who didn't speak English.
What happened there?
He writes complex questions in English on the board and leaves. Within 20 minutes, they're pulling up right-angled triangles to explain the Pythagorean theorem.
Unbelievable. Mitra essentially proved, through hard data, that education is a self-organizing system.
It is.
When you remove the rigid curriculum, when you stop dictating the pacing, and you simply give human beings tools and autonomy, they develop knowledge and agency simultaneously.
They build a map and they drive the car.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture,
It changes everything about how we should be viewing the artificial intelligence we discussed earlier.
because in modern classrooms right now, AI is primarily being integrated as a tool of productivity.
We are teaching kids how to use ChatGPT to write an essay faster, or how to summarize a dense textbook so they can pass Friday's test.
It's just being used to optimize the compliance cycle of the factory model.
But Mitra's work shows us that AI needs to be utilized as a tool of mastery.
Because the historical argument against self-directed learning was always an issue of scale.
Yes. Exactly. You can't give every single child on Earth a personalized human tutor to follow them down their unique rabbit holes of curiosity. It's too expensive.
But wait, with agentic AI like OpenClaw, you suddenly can.
Agentic AI completely dismantles the bottleneck of standardized pacing.
You no longer need 30 kids sitting in rows forced to learn the exact same fact at the exact same minute.
AI can provide personalized, instant guidance tailored to a student's specific curiosity. It does not act as a centralized authority demanding compliance. It acts as the ultimate, infinitely patient granny cloud.
Oh, wow. The AI is the granny cloud.
Yes. It answers niche questions, it helps test hypotheses, it facilitates peer learning by connecting students with similar interests globally.
It is the perfect technological bridge to scaling self-directed agentic learning without recreating the massive inequalities of private tutoring. So, what does this all mean? Let's take a step back and look at the absolute absurdity of our current reality.
Is stark contrast.
We are sitting here in the era of inference, pouring billions upon billions of dollars into creating artificial intelligence that possesses more agency, more focus, and more intentionality than we allow our own human children to practice during 12 years of factory schooling.
We are engineering machines to be radically self-reliant, to explore their environments and take action.
Meanwhile, we continue to engineer our children for learned helplessness.
It is the ultimate paradox of the modern age. Society is terrified of the machines becoming too smart and taking over, when perhaps we should be far more terrified of what our institutions are doing to limit human potential.
I want you, the listener, to really reflect on your own wiring today. Think about your daily life.
Yeah.
Think about your career, your relationships, your creative pursuits.
Where in your life are you acting like the Northern Pike?
Where are you just swimming in circles, bumping your head against a barrier, waiting for a glass partition to be removed that might not even be there anymore?
Where are you suffering from learned helplessness, passively waiting for a set of instructions from a boss or society, rather than exercising the innate, powerful agency you were born with? This raises a critical final thought to mull over. We are undeniably marching toward a future where we successfully create machines that learn autonomously through inference, adapt dynamically to their environment, and act with perfect independent agency.
Right.
If we achieve that technological marvel, but we continue to rely on a 200-year-old industrial system to train human beings to passively wait for external instructions, who eventually becomes the tool and who becomes the master?
A huge thank you to all of you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, test your boundaries, shatter the glass, and we will see you next time.